I'm Andrew Godowski,
And I'm Jason Roberts.
and this is Recruiting.Technology, the best in bots, automation, and all things out there to make recruiting work on the internet and Facebook.
Every once in a while.
Every once in a while. And Jason, it's been, I'll tell you, it's been a long time, but it has. We're back into our regular rhythm here.
Into the swing of things. We're doing it. Okay, today's topic. Where's the creativity in AI?
It's
Everybody's doing the same thing. So I just think there are probably more problems than the ones that we're seeing solved. And I want some people to solve them.
Yeah, it's not that I'm not impressed with the end-to-end. A vacancy occurs and then magically people show up and they're assessed and interviewed and ready to go. Okay, if that's not perfect now, it'll be closer in 2 weeks and it'll certainly be at 95% commodity within a year.
Well, so here's the commodity batch. And it's really interesting how quickly everybody solved the exact same problems. So there's the write the job description one. There is customize my messaging. So we
Yep.
got the customize my email one. Not a lot of people are doing just find me a candidate. That's still relegated to the matching systems. So if you have a matching system, like that's what you do,
Yeah.
then just find me a candidate is done. And then nobody really has the end to end. So the true end to end where it's like hands off, let it rip. Nobody's doing that.
Well, the systems aren't connected.
No.
So, I
Well,
mean,
they could be.
maybe the human capital management systems that also are aligned to payroll, where person comes off payroll, vacancy automatically occurs based on some sort of approval process, and people say, yes, we're going to continue or place in kind. You could get there. I don't think it's a big leap. And then job gets advertised, people come in, assessment, don't have an assessment, some level of outreach, human or augmented. Scheduling is automated.
Scheduling, yeah, scheduling's the regular. Everybody's
Scheduling is regular.
Yeah. Though, you know what? I think scheduling is still a little too antiquated. Like the way that people are using scheduling is they're still not using LLMs for it. Remember back in the day when you could with X.AI? Remember
Oh
this
my
thing?
God.
Yeah. So back in the day, you could have X.AI and you would invite, I had Amy. So Amy got invited to my calls and Amy would schedule. And she
Yeah.
would just say, hey, when are you free? And when are you free? And we would book the call that way. It was all, well, it was all supposedly a chatbot, but in real life, it was a bunch of guys with keyboards.
And that's not the first time I heard that recently.
Yeah, that's what it was supposed to be. So, but the agents, like I can build an agent in make.com that does that right now, or in innate.io. I could build something right now that does all that just with a ChatGPT API.
Yeah.
And it's really straightforward. The technology's there. It's easy, but people aren't doing it that way. They're not using the invite my bot to schedule the interview. It's still the old fashioned thing. Even the chatbot stuff we see is still a lot of decision tree based chatbots. It's not all LLM first yet. So it's just, we haven't necessarily seen that shift that I would have hoped we would see.
You and I, though, are a different kind of consumer of technology.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think that there's this normalcy. I'll tell you an example. So my daughter and her friends are really no longer texting. They are audio texting.
Oh, that's interesting.
So instead of typing or even doing autocomplete, they just hit record and they do a little message and they go back and forth.
Are they doing it by voice or are they transcribing?
Oh, they're doing it by voice.
Oh, interesting. So like a Voxer kind of thing.
But they're literally just going onto their phone.
Yeah, on your phones. But yeah, it used to be like Voxer that you would do that with.
Yeah, but now you just hit the little microphone.
Yeah.
And so they're
Yeah.
just doing that.
I don't want to listen
And they're
to anybody.
doing it in the group chats. So there's 27 people in this chat.
Oh man.
Or just four, whatever it is. But it's easier for them to say, yeah, that's awesome, and I love K-pop, and oh my god, so and so is this. Whatever it is. It's just easier for them to say it than it is for them to type it, and then it's faster for them to react.
I
Okay.
love that these conversations are about K-pop. It's excellent.
Oh, yeah.
It's good.
I wish that, there's no K-pop locally. Everything's in New York, and it's like buying tickets is like going to Taylor Swift.
Oh, you bought tickets to K-pop.
Oh, yeah, we've done multiple ticket go, but too many lights and that kind of thing. But taker.
Dude, that's the first positive attribute to that particular illness I've heard.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to go to the K-pop concert.
Oh no, it's fantastic. Getting back to this, but so that's a different change in how a consumer is using a road technology.
Yeah.
We scheduling using invites for a long time. I'm willing to bet that most people don't reply with an invite on their phone. You know how
Yeah.
you can reply with an email? It says reply with a meeting. I bet you people don't even know that exists.
Yeah. Well, yes. Well, there's a pet peeve of mine where if somebody's, hey, you want to meet? I'm like, sure, happy to meet. Here's a couple of times. And they send me back a Calendly link. Man, you connected with me. You want to meet with me. Do not send me a Calendly. I already gave you some times.
It's
Pick one of those. That's what you get to do.
Yeah.
You get to pick one of those.
Once in a while, happened the other day because I only allow people to book out so long on certain types of meetings on my kind of
Yeah.
Bookly. And someone came back and says, Andrew, I want to book you like 30 days out, but you're not allowed to do that. And I'm like, yeah, because you're not that type of customer. So
At the 6-figure mark, you can book whenever you want.
you can book me like 6 months ahead of time, but
Yeah.
no, it doesn't work that way. So
You're not that guy. You're still you're in the freemium plan right now.
but
It's good.
well, you're right. I think what we're doing is we're commoditizing whatever the consumer is used to. And now the problem is, can we actually advance to a different kind of communication methodology when we've scaled what is rote, slow, asynchronous, whatever?
So there's two things that I really wish someone would solve. Actually, there's three things I wish somebody would solve. The third one, I know that people are working on it and are releasing products on it. But the first two are, I think AI could do a really good job of solving the black hole problem for candidates. Like, where am I right now? What's happening with my application? Oh, your application is still stuck in applied for this job. Looks like you applied 2 weeks after the first interview started. Your likelihood of progressing is less than 2%.
Pizza tracker.
Pizza. Yeah, but how hard is that? Like, it's not hard at all. Like, just turn that on. I can write that prompt right now.
And it's so consumerized. I was thinking about it before this call. So today last night I went on to Google to look up this new golf club that I wanted to purchase part of my birthday, and
Happy
found
birthday,
one.
by the way.
Oh, thank you.
A little late.
No, we got
I said it on Facebook. I think I was first on Facebook.
Birthday month. So
No, you can't do that. Birthday is in June. Somebody else already claimed that month.
no, it's June.
Yeah, but somebody claimed June. June is somebody else's month already.
So in my family, we celebrate birthday month, birthday week, birthday eve in the birthday.
Oh, okay.
So
I think I might have been the first to say happy birthday.
you might. Yeah, I think you were because of time zones.
I was in the future.
You were in the future.
I was in the future. Yeah. I said happy birthday from the future. It was excellent.
Because you're in the Philippines.
Yeah.
Go ahead, get myself a birthday gift, dad, for the certificate. And so I go ahead, do that online, immediately text messaging and email was saying, thank you for your order. We'll let you know when it's ready. 30 minutes later, it says, okay, your order is ready for pickup. You want to pick it up tomorrow. And then I got a reminder this morning, your order is ready. I went over to Dick's, Sporting Goods. I picked it up. And then immediately after I picked it up, is an associate help you? Was it fast? All of that was automatic. Okay.
Yeah.
They didn't invent that. That is the norm.
Right. So but in enterprise land, especially HR, because HR gets things last, we don't have any of that stuff. We don't have a lot of that stuff. So, all right, the candidate follow-up bot, I think, should exist. It's appalling that it doesn't exist yet. The next one is, oh, here's a problem. Have you seen these identity thieves? And like the scams have gotten hardcore. Not only is there a scam like where I'm going to lie about who I am, but there are hiring scams where there's like a small army of hackers that are sitting inside in North Korea, and their goal is to get hired and scam their way into getting hired so that you give them access to your stuff and they can steal all your secrets.
Yeah, did you just ask me the question, do I know about that?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
That's actually not new. The whole laptop farm concept, any
Yeah.
kind of I mean, talent acquisition, it's a huge gap. You could drive
We're a vulnerability.
through it regarding cybersecurity breach.
That's right. So because we are this vulnerability, there's identity management and identity verification that should happen with AI, I think.
Yeah, Clear came
So
out with something with Greenhouse.
Greenhouse. Yeah, they just released something with Greenhouse. I saw another company at HR Tech. It was like, I think it was called like Octopod or something like that. They had the cute little octopus as their thing. But they had something, and I know for sure that Hire Easy is doing something. And I think the Hire Easy one's super clever because, they've got that big database of candidates, right? So
Yeah.
that's their part of their shtick. They take information off of the resume and they're like, okay, here's the candidate's application. Does it match everything else we know? We know a lot about a lot. So does that look right? And if it looks like it's pretty far off, you get a yellow flag.
Yeah,
If it looks like it's total BS, you get a red flag. And then otherwise, we'll give you the green.
here that was posted on high volume hiring podcast. We were talking about,
Oh, were you really? Okay.
and one of the things I said is Marriott and Hilton and the Intercontinental Hotel Group own this space. Everybody is within 15 minutes of one of those hotels.
Marriott, there's no way they're going to do it. You know why?
What?
I know who they picked for their RPO, and it wasn't me.
I think we can convince our friend Chris to make it happen and get his business development folks in there. But
Yeah.
that's an example of how do I know the person's real? They show up, they have a real ID or a passport or something like that. The front desk checks it. They're well trained to do that already. But we haven't thought about those types of holes. You're talking about fake profile and laptop farms. I'm talking about modeling the jobs where hundreds of people are applying who are fake profiles. And we're going to start seeing fraudulent where cyber bad actors will go ahead and attack an ATS system just to shut it down.
Well, there's a problem in the market right now where we've had a steady decrease in the number of available jobs. And at the same time, unemployment has not been jumping, but it's been ticking up, 0.1% at a time. So we've either that or holding flat, which means even if it's holding flat, there's more people for every job.
Yeah.
Right. As we have fewer and fewer jobs that are advertised. So what that means is that there's going to be way more people applying. And then Jim put out a stat at the end of last year that said 0.5% of applicants get hired. Hey, look at that. That's cool. I just gave myself a thumbs up.
Wow.
So Jim put out a stat that said 0.5% of applicants are hired. That means 1 out of 200.
That's about right. It
you're-
used to be 2%, but it doesn't surprise me that it's decayed.
Well, that's right. But think about this. If you're an applicant, it's not 50 applications anymore. It's 200.
Yeah.
You apply 200 times. And that's the average, right? Now, I'm sure that if you have a good resume, there's a bunch of things that you can do. Actually, I know for a fact, if you customize your resume for every job, you have good follow-up skills, you get referred, all the things that I teach people how to do, like when I have conversations about this, that will cut down the list. But if you're just Joe Blow, I've got a buddy that's a Facebook buddy. He used to own a comic book store and unfortunately had to close it. And he's been struggling with work since then. And this guy, now mind you, bit of a mess, but he'll post a resume, be like, resume number X is out. this guy's been applying for jobs for 4 or 5 weeks. His full-time job is to apply for jobs. He sent out 35 resumes. And I reached out to him and I was like, man, you got to crank it up. You got to do
Yeah.
200. You got to go.
Yeah. You got to apply to a lot more. And, you got to have all the alerts going, and you got to have your forms going, and, 7 to 10 different versions of the resume. Because even if you're going to do the thing and appreciate products like your own that allows you to quickly change it and save it, execute, if you were to apply for a job that was running a large scale RPO team, and I was to execute while running a large scale workforce planning team,
Yeah.
that resume looks different than if I was to run an artificial intelligence governance team.
Right.
It would. So I could do either. And you could do,
Yeah, that's
right.
exactly right. You have to customize it. So what I tell people to do is I say, keep a resume with literally everything you do, like a full curriculum vitae, a full out CV, everything you've ever done in your life is on there. And the way that you customize, the best way to customize a resume is by removing things.
Yeah.
You delete out the things that aren't applicable for that job because they don't care. They care about the things that they list on the job spec. So that's what my little piece of software is really good at. I tell it not to add a lot. It'll adjust wording and things like that. But that was just because I was teaching people how to use ChatGPT to do it. And I was like, well, it'd be way easier if they could just click a button. By the way, if you guys want to try this out, it's free. It's betterthing.ai. You can go play with that. But
So you were talking about, the delivery tracker is
pizza delivery tracker. And the two that I wanted candidate transparency, and I wanted fraudulent applicant verification.
yeah. I think that identification is attainable depending upon what type of business you are. You can be facility oriented, you can be remote oriented, you can be hybrid, et cetera. So I don't think there's going to be a one size fits all.
Yeah.
Just like there isn't a if you look at the US government as an example, there's different levels of clearance.
Yep.
I think we're kind of moving into such a pattern where, and it's not the first time we've had to do reference checks, background checks, financial checks, criminal checks. That's not new.
No.
So we'll do the things, and I think we'll ferret it out. But the government came out with something not even a couple of years ago, about this problem. And they said, you should background check everybody.
Yeah, and the government solution that they use pretty often, and then there's one that Google uses. I think it might be the same company. So if you're doing Google ads and stuff, they have you verify. And it's a giant pain. Like, it's a real pain to do. Like, it's take a picture, turn your head this way, turn your head that way. Let me take a picture of your driver's license. Like, it's a long drawn out process. And in a, day and age where people are trying to move faster in the application process.
But you don't have to do it at the apply process, though. If you do it if you have
But don't you want it there?
automated, hold on. If you have an automated tool with human intervention, and then you say, okay, I like Jason, and then Jason, before you execute an interview, you need to do a identification validation.
Yeah.
And if they don't do it, then they don't. Then you're out. But you don't have to do it for everybody. I think that's ridiculous. And if you have to do it after the interview and you lose somebody, then you lose somebody. Because here's the other thing. We've gone from time to fill of like 60 days. Now we might get down to like 7 days. So you've got more time to do some of the things that you hadn't been able to do before. That's another topic. But I have one that you haven't talked about in terms of what I think AI is not doing.
Oh, go for it. What's yours?
AI is not even introducing workforce planning into recruiting at all.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah. Vacancy pops open. It's so fast. We immediately go ahead and do stuff, and we're recruiting, and we're using some automated employment decision tool. Timeout. Are we going to go ahead and replace this hire? Are we going to go ahead and retask it? Are we going to change the skills to include the ability to use artificial intelligence? Are we going to change the span of control? Okay, All of
All
that
of
is
that
called
is called
position management, which is different than what do you want what are the three things that people are going to have to do in the first 100 days? That's a different, well, that's a rec conversation. I don't think we're really doing position management very well. And
no.
we're not doing AI to kind of look at knowledge, skills, abilities, and tasks. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that most organizations, no, I was on a call the other day and there was kind of this, we're talking about you're talking about IO psychology and how it weaves into workforce planning and recruitment. And I'm biting my tongue because I call BS. The number of organizations that actually do that and have IO psychologists who actually sit and do focus groups on critical roles, do it on a regular basis, and then plan 3, 4 years ahead, learning and development. Yeah, that all sounds cool on the resume and on the conference stage. You and I both know that that's not happening a lot.
Yeah, it's pretty rare. It's well, even when you have the IO psychologist, I find that process so slow. If you've got a team that's validating your assessments and doing the whole process internally, it's still a super slow
It
process.
is, but it's got sustainability, and with AI, it's got teeth. So what
Yeah,
you can do is you can create the work role. So I'll talk about this from a perspective because it's all public.
yeah,
So if you wanted to find a cyber incident responder, there's a standard for it. You can
yeah,
go ahead, take that knowledge, skills, abilities, and task, and you can push it against all the positions you have and see where the variance is. And AI
right,
will allow you to do that. So then you can address it with management and then remove the errors.
right,
Okay, where's that cool dialogue? Well, the problem is those people haven't done the framework that they need.
right.
And now we have time where recruiters are trying to figure out what are they going to be when they grow up when everybody's taking away their fire truck. And it just came up with that better way.
Right.
But now you can do some of those things using AI and play around. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think it's really cool that there's all this prompt engineering and how to find the next great whoever. But some of these other things, I think we're missing. I think we're missing the planning. I agree with you on the scheduling is weak. I agree with you that the pizza tracker isn't there. And then, of course, I agree with you on the identity and fraud.
So, most interesting thing in AI recently to me was Apple's most recent announcement on their new iOS that contained no discussion of AI. Their stuff that they released was not AI related. And part of it is they really hosed up their last announcement where they were talking about all the Siri AI business,
Yeah.
and most of it still hasn't released like a year later.
Okay.
So there was like a quick thing at the very beginning that said, yeah, this wasn't quite up to our standards, so we haven't put it out there yet. But we've got this other stuff. But it was all about design, usability, functionality. And honestly, the new iOS looks way cooler than just having the ability to have AI do some stuff for me. So I kind of think I like it better. There's a point where there's too much chatting with something,
Yep.
right? Either just do something for me behind the scenes so I don't have to worry about it, or let me have an old interface where I click a button. Like chatting with an AI to schedule an interview is worse than clicking the time that's good for you on Calendly. Calendly is not as smart, but it's just a better process.
Yeah. And because once you set it and forget it,
Yeah.
and it blocks your calendar, and you know that you're not going to have these conversations, etc. So sometimes I think that we come up with a system that is just not required.
Yeah.
And but I mean, and it's metal and it's an object. You could budget it. Private equity likes it, and hockey sticks and all that kind of stuff. I get it.
Well, see, that's like chatbots on a career site. Chatbots on a career site, the last time I measured it, and the last time I measured it for my personal career site, because I'll talk about that instead of any customers, on my career site that I had at JP Morgan, it was less than 4% of people used that chatbot. It was a tiny percentage of people who went in that chatbot. And it was almost just not worth the time to roll it out. Even when they used it, it wasn't giving them the stuff they ultimately needed. We turned it off in the end.
Yeah.
People just trip over their shoelaces trying to get their chatbot added to their career site. I think that's the coolest new feature, even today, by the way. And I'm like, yeah, that's cool. We'll put it out there, but just not gonna, like, nobody's gonna use it. Now
Oh,
people argue and say high volume candidates will use it. Even then, I'm like,
meh.
maybe,
Yeah.
maybe.
Well, it's kind of like you go back to employment branding and they're all talk about, well, we got to have the real life videos. You have to show our authenticity, not saying that you can't do those things. But in a place where unemployment is where it is and there's a talent surplus, I guarantee you that the average candidate is not spending 2.5 hours figuring out whether or not they're going to apply to you when they can do a one-click apply, or it only takes them 5 minutes to apply, or they've spent 45 minutes going through the process. The last thing they want to do is spend another 30 minutes going through all your videos. They'd rather just they'd rather spend 30 minutes getting their stuff together and then hit the apply button to 12 different jobs than watch your awesome R&D video. And that's my bias coming through. And there's lots of good work that gets done there, but not when we have a talent surplus in the space.
Yeah, yeah, people aren't that picky,
That's
right? So they're just not that picky right now. That was always the argument by the brand people, and I'm a very practical recruitment marketing person in that I look for transactional marketing. So I want an ad that'll drive somebody to a call to action of apply to this job versus an ad that drives them to a call to action to check us out. And the brand people are like, oh, you need a mix of the check us out and the apply to this job. There needs to be a mix. And that's just never resonated very well with me. I know that I'm actually not in the majority. Most people believe in this thing, and it's probably a gap in my own knowledge and capabilities. But we, when we, when you have a surplus of candidates and they're having to apply to 200 jobs, they don't care. They're in, they apply, they go.
right.
It's just time to take care of business. So I'm in the middle of applying to 200 jobs. And let me just tell you, it's dragging. It's a whole thing. It's super hard. Not because I'm changing jobs, not because I'm unhappy or whatever. I just figured if I was going to tell people how to apply to lots of jobs, I should do it myself.
I'm doing the same thing just so I have an understanding and knowledge. And what's fascinating about it is I feel like I don't even have time to read the position enough
Yeah.
to know whether or not I'm going to apply for it. It's almost like, all right, cooler titles there. Okay, they'll let me do remote. They'll let me do hybrid. I can drive that far. All right, I'll scroll to the bottom. Do I even think this is sniffing around the right salary? Okay, boom, I'll apply. Because I also know that I get two emails.
Yeah.
One that says thanks,
Thanks for applying. Yeah.
right? And then potentially, and I haven't gotten a bunch because I've only started doing this, I'm expecting the thank you so much. We've chosen another candidate after the job closes,
Yeah.
right? So I'm only expecting that. And
By the way, do you know the hack? Because you're actually applying for jobs that you might actually want. Do you know the LinkedIn hack on finding jobs that are recent?
tell me the LinkedIn hack on finding jobs that are recent.
Oh, it's so good. So, you know how you can look at your job listings and you see every time I put my hand up, it gives a thumbs up on my
And I
screen.
do
So,
this. We do this. Does it do anything?
yeah, if I do this, it gives you hearts.
Well, how come I'm not getting hearts?
Yeah, it's a Mac thing.
Oh, is a
There's
match
also
like,
this thing, which
I
is
mean, like,
super
is it
cool. Look
because
at
it
this.
looks like binoculars? I mean, what's happening? Oh, wow. Now you're discoing. It's bizarre.
Yeah, it's cool. Mac has all these things. So when you're applying for a job on LinkedIn, you can filter based on the most recent jobs and basically just show
Oh,
me
yeah.
jobs that open today, right?
Yeah.
Okay. In the URL, there is a number, and that number is the number of seconds in a day.
Okay.
And you can edit that number in the URL, and you can get it down to jobs that open that hour if you
No,
want.
and that's actually critical
Yeah.
because recruiters will look at, so it's a first in, first out kind of So
Yeah.
if you're Like I've seen jobs where like 827 people have applied.
Yeah. So that's the problem. That is the spam problem that we're dealing with. In fact, Stephen Zhang and I from Hire Easy,
Yeah.
I did a podcast with him on the Hire Easy cast, and they never actually put the podcast out, but they started releasing like shorts from it.
Yeah.
And he just released one where I talked about this particular thing. And it's basically in recruiting, we have two problems. We solve two problems in recruiting. We have the finding problem. I need to find good talent. I need to filter. And the second is I need to filter talent down to which of the people who have applied are actually good. And today we're in the filter problem business.
Well,
And Hire Easy, who's a sourcing tool, they have rolled out, and the most popular thing with new customers for them right now is the ability to filter candidates and say these candidates are a good match versus these other ones. So even a sourcing core tool has pivoted to say, all right, we're going to solve this other problem right now because that seems to be the bigger problem.
well, but look, I haven't talked to Steven in a long time. I haven't seen the
Mhm.
product in a long time, but let's just talk about how there's that category.
Yeah.
That category, I think, has changed. And forgive the words that I'm about to use. I know a lot of people listen to this. Recruitment has, over time, become in the waste management business,
Okay.
in that the highest percentage of the transactions that we do are never used. And
It's true.
and of all the engagement that we execute, all the things that we see, the majority gets thrown away at some point. And yes, there is this recycling, let's talent pipeline and silver medalist, and we've heard that story before. And
Right.
yes, it does work, but it works in the same way that recycling works. So, as an example, the amount of glass that gets recycled is considerably less than the amount of cardboard.
Yeah.
Cardboard has a tremendous recycle rate. Okay, so we're in that business. Now we have more waste because 847 people apply to the job, and you are going to, one way or another, tell 846 of them that no, you can't take me to the prom.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the business that we're in.
Yes, that is the business that we're in. Well, yeah, we're in the reuse business. We should be in the reuse business. No, so Steven's thing, or I should just say Hire Easy, not his thing, because I started that wrong. But Hire Easy's business is in finding new candidates, right? They're a sourcing tool, so
Yeah.
they've got this database of candidates. That's what we pay them for, is to be sort of a LinkedIn alternative,
Yeah.
right? Over time, they finally listened and built a CRM, which is my favorite CRM right now. I think it's the most leading edge of the CRMs and agents and all the things that you have. Well, I love that that's a thing, but even then, CRMs are for sourcing time. That they're for helping find candidates and work with the candidates in your talent pools, right?
Mhm.
A sourcing tool, even LinkedIn, you've got recruiters out there holding on to a LinkedIn license that don't actually need it because their inbound volume is so strong. They haven't needed a LinkedIn license in months,
Well,
but they're holding on to their binky.
yeah, and so they got to get rid of that. I think that you got to use tools that are smarter for you. I think that, for example, CRM, you can buy CRMs and you've wasted your money if you're not using the tool the way you're supposed to be using it.
Yeah.
I'm a
But
lot
these
more.
guys are pivoting though. My bad. I didn't finish what I was saying. They did shift. They're like, the real problem people have right now is there's a bazillion people applying. So let's help them decide which of those people are the right fits. We'll sort them and put
Yeah.
the best fits on the top. So that's step one. I think that's step one in what's happening next.
Yeah.
Because I actually don't think our market gets cleared up for a very long time. I think we are in the beginning of this messy market still. So what that means is we're going to have to adjust the way that we're dealing with all these candidates. And it's going to be about filtering to find the best candidates. And that the manual, hey, here are the best ones, you should take a look at them. That's the starting point. But I think where this goes is your agent just starts interacting with them. And your agent talks to the bottom batch and says, I don't think you're going to make this cut. You applied too late or whatever.
Right.
But it will say, for some others, let me do some pre-screening. We'll do some vetting. I saw a technology called Canditech today.
Okay.
Canditech. I don't know. I think it's Canditech.
Yeah, by the way, getting the name right is probably important. By the way, do you remember with Hire Easy, you and I were trying to figure out how to actually say the name?
High res.
Is it high res? Is it higher? Like we couldn't figure it out.
Hires.
And then
Yeah, that's
finally
true.
someone said, no, this is how you pronounce it. And I remember saying, I'm pretty sure that the first step of understanding what your business is, people
Isn't
can
it the name?
pronounce it reliably.
Well, it was Hire Easy. No, it's Canditech I saw today. Well, they're an assessment platform.
Yeah.
So, but what I think happens in the future is that there's a candidate agent that goes and talks to your agent, and the candidate agent's, hey, my guy wants a job, and your agent's, yeah, your guy doesn't look like he's going to make that cut. Well, let's talk about it. And the agents will screen each other because they have the answers about each other, right? And then you'll end up with, okay, my agent says that these 4 candidates are the best ones after conducting the screen with their agents, so we're going to go ahead and list them out.
See, I've gotten some pushback on this concept, which is
Yeah.
jobs should be open for 10 days or until 100 candidates apply, whichever occurs first, and then it closes. And then the second,
yeah, I think you should cut off the job posting
right,
if you've
you
got 100
absolutely
candidates
need
on.
to cut it off.
Yeah.
And then people say, well, what if someone else comes along? I'm like, well, hope is an awful strategy, so stop it.
Well, it's also just not cool for that person, right? If there's somebody that applies and it's really in real life, it's too late,
Yeah.
right? Then they've actually gotten their hopes up, right?
Yeah.
They're thinking, man, I'm a perfect fit for this job. And then the worst thing is that Mr. Mobley applied, who's a perfect fit for your job.
Mobley.
And Mr. Mobley is going to come back and be like, you discriminated against me. I'm a perfect fit. Prove that I'm not. You're like, you might be a perfect fit, but you applied like 2 weeks after the guy that I was about to make an offer to.
Okay.
So I didn't bother with this.
So actually, that's how you get around this.
Yeah.
The whole concept. Okay. If you apply first,
yeah,
and we will look at you in the order in which you apply. We have a methodology that does that. The other is know where the AI agent is on going back to the applicant. So I go in and I'm at Samsung.com and I go ahead and I execute my login into Workday, Smart Recruiters, Greenhouse, whatever it is. And now I'm going to go ahead and apply to multiple jobs. This is applicant tracking systems. This is what I want. I want you to block applicants to either stop where they can apply to only so many jobs until they are dismissed, or you reach back out to them and make them rank the jobs.
So if you've got an applicant applying to 4 jobs in the same company, that's true. I can see that.
Yeah, I mean, because now you have 4 managers involved. And so what you've created internally is a competitive element within the company where they're all competing for that talent. Instead, put it on if you're going to have a candidate pizza tracker, you might as well let them order the pizza they want.
Yeah. Well, but I mean, they should be so lucky. They're happy to get a phone call back from one. That's the big deal. I mean, the reason they're applying for so many is that they're like, well, one, you post the exact same job 75 times. Maybe you should work on your posting strategy.
That's fine. That'll work itself out if you use the 10-100 model. But what I'm saying is, if I go ahead and apply for 4 jobs in the same day or in the same week, something can come back to me as an AI and says, thanks so much for applying to these jobs this week. Obviously, we're working through, do you have a preference in which one of these? We'd like to have you rank them. And then what ends up happening is whoever—
You know what I would say if a chatbot said that to me? Chatbot says that to me, I would be like, which one do I have the best shot at?
And that's what it should do.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what it should do. It should say, you are you scored like this. You went ahead and you're number 28 on the list. You have 2 internal candidates. All of those things together, do you want to rank yourself a certain way? Someone could say, no, it's really important for me to have a hybrid role, even though I have a long shot. So make that my number 1. That doesn't mean they're going to get it. That doesn't mean that they're going to, but you certainly shouldn't put the company in a position where now you're a good talent, have
Mhm.
good qualifications, and you have two different managers trying to give you the job. That's not fair to other applicants.
Yeah. I mean, if you're that much of a rock star where everybody's fighting over you, then good on you, man. And you probably don't need to apply to 17 jobs. You probably just needed to apply to the one.
Well, and
So,
but that's where we're going. But where we're going to, if we're going to be doing like, if we have this trade skill scarcity,
yeah.
you don't think that two Jiffy Lubes that are within 7
No,
miles
that's
of each
true.
other,
Yeah, that's where all the competition is going to be.
that's
It's
where the
going to be like
competition is going to
it's
be.
going to be like the AC repair guy, and there's
Right,
not enough of those guys. Yeah.
right. Or, oh, you're a pharmacy technician. Well, okay, I've got this many CVSs on the same bus route that you can take, or the same highway, just a different exit.
Yeah.
You're all competing with each other. Why don't you just say, look, I like to be closer to this one. If that one's available, if not, I'll take number two. And then you can say, oh, yeah, and those should be on autopilot. Like if
If
you're
you're
a pharmacy tech, if you're a radiology tech, if you're a mechanic, if you are an HVAC technician, it should be upload your certificate all the way to you're going to have a start date at this hourly rate, and you can show up 48 hours from now.
Yeah. Yeah.
You should actually have that. That should be there already.
Andrew, I'm afraid that I am turning into a pumpkin.
Well, you're probably late for a meeting. Just because you're an hour behind me and it's 4 o'clock on a Friday. I can't believe I'm even talking to you.
Yeah, I'm the only call you take at this time.
That's right.
It's good.
That,
It's a
and
good
you
thing.
know, because it's blocked on my calendar.
Yeah, I did do that. I did do that.
All right, sir.
All right. Next time.
Next time. Adios.
Adios.